All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. I just want to start by saying how thrilled I am. First of all, to have partnered with Rupa on this. So just a huge cheer and call out to her for everything she does every day because it's pretty freaking amazing. So I just want to say thank you, Rupa. I met Rupa almost about 2 years ago when I was 3 years ago. I was the head of communications at Organon, which was the first women's health organization of its kind. We struck up a friendship. We have followed each other since. And so here we are, both our first time at Cannes. So one of the things I love about Rupa working with her and her organization is that they're always shedding light on equity and creativity. And usually we don't use those words hand in hand, right? We either talk about equity or we talk about creativity. But here we are at Cannes where we can really bring the two together. If we're going to achieve progress in women's health, we have to be creative. Some would say it is the best and worst time in women's health. And I say that because I don't want to start crying. It has been a challenging time, but let me first talk about the good times, which is it's the best of times because innovation, since I started in this work, and I started many, many years ago from my education up through working at Planned Parenthood for many years, where we brought a lot of innovation into the market that is now mainstreamed, technology that we all use. Best of times because this innovation is being embraced, it's being funded, it's coming to the forefront. There are many women entrepreneurs out there, huge femtech discoveries, companies are investing in it. So we all need to just keep pushing for this and pushing for this. These breakthroughs are incredibly important to achieve significant outcomes for women. As many of you know, we're the least studied group of people. We're the 51% of the population, but it feels like we're 2% of the population based on clinical trials and the way things go. So it takes a force. It takes all of us to keep pushing. And I see many of my amazing colleagues in the room today who are part of that. It's most challenging, and I think you would all agree, because of the upheaval we continue to see in reproductive health. And I will say the day that Roe v. Wade got overturned was the second worst day of my life. I spent most of the weekend under my covers. But it was sort of inevitable the way things were going. Huge amounts of money poured in, lots of money not available on the other side, but we have to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing. Some victories last week, because I'm the eternal optimist, so I'm always going to look for the positive and the negative and how we can keep pushing, was, I don't know if you're all familiar with mifepristone, with medical abortion pills. Actually, the Supreme Court threw out a case that was ridiculous. And it was a huge victory, not just for the women's movement, women's organizations of this world, and of course of the US, but for actually the pharmaceutical industry and the biotech industry, which actually banded together to fight against this. And I was a part of that in the background. And I have to say, it was one of my proudest moments to see that news come through last week and just be part of, I wouldn't say celebrating, because I don't think we're ready to celebrate yet, but to see that if we put ourselves together, if we exert our muscle, if we apply creativity, if we apply the right voices, we can make a difference. We really can. And we have to now think, what's the next step? How do we continue to push forward for women? Because we have to visualize these women that are being torn away from just their basic human rights of having access to all forms of reproductive health. It starts here, it could end here. We don't want that to happen. I think Rachel will probably address that a little bit later. Also, I just want to do a call out to the country of Mexico. First woman president, and I have to mention that she's also Jewish. So I think this is a huge effort, having worked, again, Planned Parenthood and Organon, and seeing the high levels of teen pregnancy in Mexico and some of the poorest communities in Mexico. I feel so hopeful for these young women, what's going to happen next, or women across Mexico in general around equity. It takes creativity to get women like these elected. It doesn't just sit at Cannes where we're showing ads and awards and creators. It happens in politics, it happens in business, it happens everywhere we look. So let's always apply our creativity. So those are two things I just want to call out. We have to keep thinking every single day about how we can talk about this, share our voice. I think our voices are being heard much more authentically now. So it takes a lot of work in policy and advocacy to create equity in all sorts of health areas. Today, we're going to talk about two areas that I think are very important and prevalent in our space. One is in mental health, which will be led by Rachel Lowenstein in terms of self-esteem, and where it all begins, right, with teens. The focus we're going to also have is on reproductive health and really what women want and turning reproductive health right side up. We have an amazing panel. This kind of started at South by Southwest with a bunch of women in this room. We decided to do an open mic. So we basically had a group of women come in, and we had an open mic. We took advantage of the fact that we were in Austin, and it's the home of music. And each woman got up, and we had about 4 women who spoke their mind. And then we basically opened it up to the whole room. And Rachel, I don't know if you would agree, but it was one of the most energizing, inspiring. We couldn't actually get everybody out of the room at the end. We were there 3 hours. We were freezing because we were outside. And it just showed that women really want to talk. They want to hear from other women. They want to be listened to. And that's one of my big learnings when I was at Organon, which is women are doing a lot of talking. They're not being listened to. And we are the foundation to a healthier world. So we need to be out there talking about it. So so I want to just thank Rupa again, because when she came to me and said, let's talk about, creativity and let's talk about equity, I said, okay, that's good. And she said, well, you can take like 2 sessions. And then of course, where we went, we ended up with 5 sessions, and we're going to be doing that over the next 2 days. And it's going to be under this banner of equity and creativity, and accelerating equity and creativity across her life stages. And what I want to say about that is, obviously, I'm older than a lot of folks in the room, and I've seen a lot in my life in terms of women's health and reproductive health. But I do want to say that, we need to think about the fact that in many cases, as we, start to get our periods and we start to go through menopause, there's a lot of gaslighting from the beginning to the end, from a medical perspective in between. So this 5 sessions, and the 5th session is really going to focus more on culture, women over 40 being invisible and forgotten, especially in media. So the first 4 are really going to focus on these areas. And we picked the most kind of obvious topics, but I think it's important because we're going to dig deep and we're going to be creative about it. First one being teens. This is where it all begins. We need to ensure that women, young girls, are confident. And I think the work that Rachel's team has done at Group M and Mindshare with Unilever is just a great example. Ogilvy also, in terms of the Dove, and then so many different things going on there. Then we're going to have our little speak out on reproductive health, and I hope that a few of you will have a chance to kind of speak your minds as well. Tomorrow we come back with an amazing, amazing organization called JPIGO. I don't know if you guys are familiar with JPIGO, but they are the foremost organization focusing on maternal health, another area where women should not just be surviving, they should be thriving through their pregnancies. And this group is going to talk about how they go into the outer reaches of the world to really help women be healthier, be stronger, have healthier babies, have a stronger and better life. And then finally, the topic on everybody's mind, it seems right now, is menopause, an area that is very under-discussed, misunderstood, and it's much more than just entering your 50s and all of a sudden you have hot flashes and you're sweating at night and you're losing hair and you're gaining hair and you're losing weight and you're gaining weight. It's so much more than that. Women's entire bodies change. Their health for heart, they have to prevent cancer, their skin health, their brain health, their bone health. All of these things work hand in hand, and we're going to talk more about that. And then we're going to finish up with our final panel from Mindshare, Group M, and a number of different distinguished people to talk about women after 40, invisible and forgotten. So with that, I just want to say that, we're here with the most creative people in the world in Cannes this week. Let's take inspiration from them. Go see the work. Go hear the people speak. Let's do this together. We can make a huge difference. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. I'm going to introduce Rachel and her group. She's going to represent her group. I got to get back onto my little iPhone to I have so many things I could say. I really don't need this iPhone, but I want to have her official. So for those of you who don't know her, Rachel is the global head of inclusive innovation and Mindshare, which is she leads strategy and innovation for brands that use marketing, media, and technology to reshape society for good. I'm going to stop there for a minute just to say, I first heard about Rachel when I rejoined WPP a year and a half ago. She was spoken about like an icon within the organization. Everybody talked very highly of her. They handed me this survey called Health on Her Terms, and they said Rachel was the mastermind of this whole survey, which we will not spend a lot of time on now, but it all talked about how marketers and creators and businesses need to pay different attention to the way they focus on women and their health, that they're not focusing. And there's a million ads we could look at to show this. Heard about Rachel, but I didn't get to actually meet her till about 6 months ago, and it's been just dreamy and wonderful, and I feel like we're partners in crime. So I want to, with that, introduce Rachel as one of the most innovative, smartest, creative, wonderful women in our industry who is really making a huge difference. And she's all over Cannes doing panels, so go see her wherever she is because she always has something different to say. all along the same lines, of course. So thank you, Rachel, for being here, and look forward to your team.